Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello and welcome to yet another iteration of the Simulationist podcast. This is the 47th number of them, and today is the 28th of July, 2013.
Yes.
And I'm Josh Trelevin. With me is Ryan Kirkby.
And we're having fun this week.
We're having fun.
Specifically, what kind of fun have you had this week, Josh?
Okay, right into what I've been doing this week. Same as always, lots of Minecraft. Lots of grinding, to be honest. What have I been doing? I've been running around my Blaze arena. I found two, I think I've maybe talked about this before, but I found two Blaze spawners very close, like within about 10 blocks of each other, basically.
Congratulations.
So I built a giant, basically cage around it, and then whenever I need XP to enchant stuff, I go in there and I just, wait for blazes to spawn and go fight them.
That's pretty badass, I must say.
Although I drink a potion first. Do
you have a drinking problem?
Separate issue.
Okay.
A potion of fire resistance. So actually it sort of makes blaze fighting a little bit cheap, but it's in the game.
Now there's an idea. What to do with wheat? Brew it into alcohol.
Oh,
Is there a mod for that? Because there better be by this point.
I'm betting there's an alcohol mod.
Okay, I'm going to have to look that up. It doesn't actually provide any bonuses or anything. It just gets you a little tipsy. You stagger around, and you're okay.
Well, I mean, I've sort of looked at the idea of alcohol in Minecraft before, and they have Potion of Weakness, which sort of makes you... It's kind of like...
Yeah, but you need high-end ingredients for that. I'm thinking about just taking the bottle, taking your distillery, taking some wheat, and bam, beer.
Yeah, that could be as simple as that. It could be just brew some wheat.
I suppose if you really want to go for it, you can get a whole lot of wheat, get yourself a thing of ore, and then turn it into a 2-4 of beer. But that sounds a little involved. But it would allow you to start, on your way to making blocks of bottles.
Blocks of bottles? Hey, that could be cool.
That could be something. I'm not certain if cool is the proper term for it.
Right. One other thing I've been doing in Minecraft lately is I've been trying to protect cities from the new zombie not cities, villages, basically. From the new zombie onslaught, and I've been failing rather spectacularly.
Oh, so the whole zombie midnight invasions are back on then, or?
No, it's not officially. It's not any part of the code. It's just zombies now
spawning and finding you.
They can see players in villages from farther away, and I think I've even mentioned this before. They can see players in villages longer away, and they can spawn friends like other zombies if you're attacking them.
You know what I don't like a lot about this recent addition to the zombies?
Oh.
I dig the distance that they follow you. That's like pure zombie. They know where you are and they come, and then there's groups of them all of a sudden. How did that happen? What I don't like is fighting the little baby zombies.
Oh, the baby, yeah.
You don't get any experience and you feel really guilty.
Yeah.
And to the best of my knowledge, they haven't dropped anything either. So it's not like you can console yourself with, oh boy, more zombie flesh to add to my pile. Hooray.
Yeah. Well, what did zombies used to drop? They used to drop feathers, so that was a little different. But
yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But then again, there's a couple things about the game that don't make logical sense.
What, Minecraft makes sense? No, I kind of like there are things that I wish made more sense in Minecraft, and I wish that my village hadn't been completely. Every last villager was. I mean, I wasn't particularly careful. The thing that you can't do, of course, is go mining and forget about the village, basically, because then it turns night, and then that's when you're underneath, far below, so the chunks are still loaded above, and like stuff is happening above there, but obviously you can't get to it. So yeah.
Was it a big enough village to have like iron golems? Because the one village I spent time in, I made sure there was enough of them to have an iron golem, and they were taking care of everybody. I was basically not even needed.
I built 2 iron golems, and I also built up the village enough to spawn 1 iron golem. So it had 1 naturally spawned and 2 that I made. They didn't help at all. Like
Really?
They didn't even the last villager. I don't know why they didn't protect him, but apparently they couldn't.
Maybe he stole their flowers.
Yeah, maybe.
As long as you can come up with a good theory behind it, it's all fun.
And in the end, I still had fun.
And then you get to deconstruct all the buildings and keep all the blocks for yourself. This village was never here.
Actually, no, I'm planning, my eventual plan on the village is to repopulate it, fortify it even more, get more lights and pumpkins and whatever else I have to add to it to make it safe. So there's
add a mod, get yourself some, laser turrets, whatever it takes.
Yeah, basically. And then I'm going to, bring in villagers, either from another village or just cure some zombies. I haven't decided which way to go.
I was joking about that laser turret mod, but I'm willing to bet it exists.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Now I kind of want to see it in action.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
So I think that, that basically covers it. I downloaded Cube World. I don't know if you've heard of that game.
I've seen the movie Cube, but that's a very, very different thing than the Cube World.
Cube World looks a lot like Minecraft when you first see pictures of it, but it's actually more like its own thing. It's kind of an RPG, in the Japanese tradition.
I think I may have played Cube World as a small Flash one, but that might be something else. You gotta have 8 options, and you have to hit them in the proper sequence to get everything to max level.
I don't remember that part of it. But I'm going to be playing a bit more Cube World, and I might get addicted to that one. Although it is more similar to something like World of Warcraft or the JRPGs or things like that, where you run around in the world. It's maybe inspired by Legend of Zelda also. So
that's not bad. Legend of Zelda's always been a decent series. Even the CDI stuff, while never being publicly acknowledged again by the company, was entertaining in its own right.
So I think that covers what I've been doing for video games. How about you?
I've been fairly busy. In Minecraft, I got myself back to the Mushroom Island I started at. Now, I restarted the map effectively. I just used the same code in for the seed.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I've been effectively challenging myself. I know what's here, I know what's there, and I said to myself, you've done this before, now do it again, but make it better. Mm-hmm. And I'm having a lot of fun making it better than I did before. It's a great challenge. I'm coming up with some amazing looking stuff. The bridge I've got taking me over to the small non-mushroom island I've got, that is so much better than my previous one. The island is going better and quicker than the previous one.
Okay.
I made it slightly smaller. Instead of a diameter of 57, I put it down to 47. So if you know your math for circles and radii, that's a significant less amount of area. I wasn't going to use it all anyways.
Well, I was playing creative the other day, and I was just trying to make a 64 by 64 grassy area above the water. And wow, I mean, just even in creative mode, that's it takes so long.
It is a little involved, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. If for no other reason than right now, I'm going to have, that's where I put my trees.
Oh yeah.
And so I can grow my trees in relative safety.
That's good.
But I was working on the dual system staircase I mentioned earlier. Last week, you can go around or you can just take the ladder up through the center. And I'm going to have to make a second staircase that goes on the opposite side, because my staircase is so big, I can put one in and then effectively have it go up as a helix. And I think that's really stylish, but requires color coordination.
I like that the fact that you can means that you must.
Well, if I'm going to make it cool, I'm going to make it as cool as possible.
Yeah, sure.
And this way, it means I won't have, because I mentioned last time, the problem with my staircase is that it's going to mean each level is going to be 10 squares high.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, what am I going to do with all that space? Now I don't have to. Now they're going to be about 5 squares high. Still plenty of enough room for jumping around or doing wonderful designs on the wall or whatever I want to do.
Yep.
And yeah, it takes care of that problem.
Yep.
So hooray.
When you do stairs, do you conserve bricks in just the stairs, like over emptiness, or do you do upside down stairs underneath? Or
no, I haven't done upside down stairs on this one, although I am considering it now that I'm going to be doing the other way around, so I can actually reach that surface, up out of the ceiling.
Yeah.
Because, at 10 squares up above, it's like, well, I suppose I could jump up and do a stack of just basic earth underneath me, but that seems really, really involved. I can barely even see up there when I'm on the ground. It's just so dark.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm considering it at least. At least something to do when I have the spare bricks left over.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing I learned from the last map, I'm going to have a lot of spare stone and a lot of spare earth, especially as I cultivate the island a little bit more here and there.
Does your massive staircase, let's see, because you're in sort of a mountainy island and stuff, right?
It's very vertical, yes.
So it goes up to the top of one of the mountains.
The highest peak on the Mushroom Island chain.
Okay.
That said, it's rather big. It's like a 9 by 10 area that I'm slowly working myself, to the top through.
That's cool. And now, does it also go down, or do you plan on going down?
I will go down all the way to the bottom, because I do know deep down there somewhere is an abandoned mine, and that means I do believe, from what I recall, at least 3 spider spawners, which means wool, that I can get. I can make.
You can make string into wool.
Yeah, I can string into wool, or I could just keep the string and just have all my cows, or my mushrooms be on tethers if I so decide. So that's kind of nice too.
Very good.
But, that's where my free XP comes from. That's where, some nice extra resources come from. I can turn string into an infinite resource down there, so I'm definitely pursuing that.
Oh, that's good.
But I am somewhat hesitant right now as to whether or not I should build a rather large and long bridgeway to the mainland. So I can bring conventional animals over. I've seen some horses, and I like them. I didn't get behind any of them because I'm afraid they'll kick. But I looked at them, when I was exploring the mainland a little ways back, and I liked it. So I think I want to bring them over, even if all I'm doing is riding them from A to B.
Oh yeah.
So I did, however, come across an interesting phenomenon as I was exploring this week.
Mm-hmm.
My boat disappeared.
Oh.
I was going about trying to find some pumpkins so that I might be able to make, jack-o'-lanterns and later on pie.
Yeah.
And I was going through in the middle of the night as I'm going by the land, like, haha, forget you, zombies. You can see me, but I'm moving too fast. And all of a sudden, not even a popping sound, really, just all of a sudden, no boat.
Yeah.
I went down to the bottom. There was no bricks, or no blocks, no sticks to pick up. My boat just completely disappeared.
Okay. Well, how long had you been in the boat?
I got off throughout the day. I had to get myself some jungle wood and all that. Did some nice exploring. Got myself some cocoa beans. And
were you sailing for more than a Minecraft day?
Not more than a day altogether. But I think from bit to bit, from spot to spot, it was definitely more than a day. Totaled.
No, because, one of the things that happens to me in boats is that I do, huge sweeping journeys, and I'm just sitting in the boat for, Minecraft day after Minecraft day. And the longer you do that, because Minecraft has it has a server side and a client side, even when you're playing single player, it has 2 engines that are doing different things, and they both have to be told where your boat is. So Minecraft has a little bug that gradually they get out of sync. So you think you're one place, and the screen is showing you being in one certain area.
So my boat's somewhere out there. It just backtracked and lagged behind, and then I jumped out of it.
Basically, well, I'm not sure if this would have happened to you because you have to be in the boat for a long time or have another reason.
I don't know. I've had something like that happen when I wasn't in there for a long time. I was trying to get from one location that I developed to another, and I wasn't able to go very far in the boat at all, and then I couldn't hop out of it, and then all of a sudden I popped off back at my starting location, and the boat's sitting way out there in the water.
Yeah.
But that was definitely not a day. So I just got extra lag on my system?
I think lag basically adds to... I think even if you have very little lag, it still accumulates gradually. But if you had a lag spike at some point, or a lot of lag at that time for some reason, who knows why.
So don't run SETI at home in the background while I'm playing in the future. Okay, I can dig that.
Yeah.
But the things you learn through happenstance, now I'm going to have to go out and find my boat, my missing lost boat.
Well, it's probably sticks, and it probably... Because what happened is you probably thought you were going well clear of any land or anything like that, but the boat probably hit something, hit a rock or...
Oh, harsh. Because I have been making sure to avoid the squids, because I have lost a boat from hitting a squid. Yeah. That said, I thought there was enough zombies and creepers up on the shore that the squids weren't really doing much spawning. So that's interesting to learn. The other thing I've been doing this week is finding ways to avoid being sad, because the Shadowrun game is out. The Shadowrun Returns game.
And you don't have it?
No. I would need to get a Steam account, which I've been avoiding. I know it's good stuff, but the sales are so cheap and so gratuitously low. I'd wind up spending so much money on them.
It's true, you do, yeah.
On games I would likely not ever play. I've been told to buy them as gifts, and that way if I don't use them, I can gift it to someone else. And my brother, I think at least one of my brothers has it, so it's a nice way to make certain I can get some use out of a game I wind up never playing.
That's a good way to go about it, I suppose.
But yes, it came out, so I've had to busy myself to make sure I don't feel too sad that I'm not playing it, because I am still deep in the throes of exploring the world of Shadowrun.
Yeah.
But to combat that, I've started back up on the Wheel of Time series.
Book series?
Yes, I'm on book 4 of 14.
Oh, okay.
Yay, small progress. But I noticed the first chapter, it really explains the characters again, who they are, what they're like, and I'm like, this is book 4 in a series. Now, granted, you, I guess, should be able to pick up any book and read it without having read the previous ones in the series.
Mm-hmm.
But do you really need to go through all this? The guy has in the back of the book an index for terms and names. If you forget, okay, which one was the royal princess and which one was the one that grew up next to the main protagonist? Oh, check the back index. Okay, got that right. I knew they both began with E, but now I've got it straight in my head. Oh, and a pronunciation guide too. That helps. Make sure I read it properly.
Yeah.
But no, it goes through the whole thing and explains what the people are and what the purpose of this town is again, that I've already read. I've been to this place in the first 3 books. I've read it.
Okay.
So, is that a thing we can, as a culture, just get past? Is if you're on, book X of a series and it's not the first one in the series, can we skip the reintroduction for everybody again?
No, I don't think so, because every book is someone's first book, and maybe, some kid who doesn't know anything about fantasy but has...
It advertises itself, book 4 in the series, and there are some things he doesn't explain a whole lot. He makes allusions to, if she failed and went back to the Empress, she might wind up in the castle or the Tower of Ravens. Tower of Ravens is never explained. It's just an ominous thing. You don't need to know what it is. You know by the name. Oh, that's a spot within a name I don't want to be into. It's the Tower of Ravens. Doesn't sound like a good spot to go to. It's not a vacation resort, definitely.
That might be a good... Well, maybe there's another reason why he does, recaps or things like that. Maybe it's simply the fact that he enjoys his own world, and he sort of expects the fans to enjoy it so much. Instead of rereading the old material, it's just like, well, here's a snapshot of it. Because a lot of people will reread their favorite books, and I'm sure there are people who have read The Wheel of Time
several times too.
Yeah, I mean, I've read Lord of the Rings multiple times, and that's not easy.
No, especially with that kind of dry patch in the middle there.
Yeah, there are.
There are bits that are rich and engrossing and deeply involving, and then there are bits that are a little drier.
Yeah.
If you're big on their genealogy and their history, it's a little bit better off, but... yeah.
Right, well, the Silmarillion definitely has a lot of that in it. Lord of the Rings is not quite so bad. It tends to be it keeps moving fairly easily.
Briskly.
It's an adventure story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Technically, it's a war story, too.
But, I look at things like novels and especially novels, as basically a conversation between this storyteller, this novelist who's sat down to write a story and to actually speak to all his readers. And so it has this conversational flow. It's like, well, now we're going to take kind of this turn and talk this way about recapping.
The only way I was able to explain it in my head is I was reading the chapter. And it felt like I was reading it again, because I know this. Yeah, okay, dude, I know this. Okay, yes, I know she's not into frilly stuff. I know she's, a very tomboyish girl. You don't have to explain that to me again. And it felt like that. On the other hand, I was thinking to myself, if this book was first out, how many years was that after the last one? Is this like a recap for the people who are reading it day one?
Oh, that's a good point, too. Yeah.
In which case, wouldn't it be better off in future editions to do like a shortened first thing? Because the first chapter is 51 pages. It's a sizable chapter by almost any standards.
Sure.
But wouldn't it be better for second publishing, the second edition of the whole thing, to have it as shorter, like condensed without the back explanation? Just for those who is like, okay, I'm just getting into the series. He's finishing up the last book now, like what's going on with me. I got 13 books to read if I want to get caught up. No, I don't need the reintroduction of the first chapter of these other 12 books in the series as I go through.
Well, you might not need... I suppose that's an idea. The other thing that you could do is just write a little disclaimer at the beginning of chapter 1. It's like, this chapter, like, if you've recently read the previous book, you don't have to read this chapter, something like that.
Well, the thing is, you did. The plot progresses still. Certain characters, do this or that. Information's exchanged, so you know who knows what.
Yeah.
But that said, I do like the author. I like him a whole lot. He writes very evocatively. When there's a wind blowing through town, you feel the wind. He writes it very good. But it occurred to me, instead of re-explaining the characters time and again, if he had made sure they go through like a habit, the leader of the organization will say picks her teeth, just kind of clicks it with her tooth nail there. If she did that, then all you'd need to really do is have that mentioned in there, as the person sits down the thing and starts picking at the one tooth with the her nail. Then everything starts flowing back because you've got that personality hook. Who does that? Oh yes. That's the leader of the organization who grew up a fisherman's daughter when she was young, and she has risen to great heights, and everything comes flowing back.
And this is all in the reader's head because the reader remembers it somehow.
If you do it right, if you have a character with the proper hook, even if the hook isn't like a major thing, like they always do this, if it's something they do when they're nervous, if it's a habit, it helps to flow back as to who they are.
Yeah, that's true. Have you ever been reading a similar thing? Have you ever been reading a graphic novel that was originally a comic book, serialized comic book with the 32 pages or whatever per month or 2 months or whatever, and then, but you never read the comic book, but years later you buy the collected graphic novel. And did you ever notice that they can be often very repetitive? It's like
not just repetitive,
same
sometimes discrepancies in the scene. Like I remember one thing that showed up for one of the Tumblr posts I follow every once in a while. And on the end of the one issue, it's got the lady and she's emerging from the steam and the whole thing's foreshadowed and you can just basically see the outline of her as she's approaching menacingly. First issue of next comic, she's down on the ground helpless. And it just doesn't sag properly. It's like a bad, like, corner joint in a house.
Yeah, or some. Yeah, there's just some scene missing or something like that.
At least one panel where somebody cracks her with a 2x4, so she falls down on the ground.
Well, and there's this series with. I guess they do this before commercial breaks in like TV shows and whatever. If the door is like it's a closing door that closes down from the top, like rolling down, and the hero is trying to get under the door and
dive.
So like before the commercial break, it looks like there's 2 inches left, so the hero will never be able to get through. But then after the commercial break, it's
2 feet. Wow, they make it through easily enough.
Yeah, and so you don't notice if you watch the commercials, but if for some reason the commercials are like if
you're watching the Netflix version
and fast forwarded through the commercial or whatever, it's like, oh, that's weird.
It just jumps up again. I noticed that a lot for people making proclamations like, "Protagonist, you shall meet your doom."
Oh yeah.
Commercial break. Come back. "Protagonist, you shall meet your doom." And then pot shot. The guy gets knocked off the back of a wall. He's gone. Okay, on with whatever else is happening.
Yeah.
It does seem. Well, it's definitely sensationalized to keep you, from changing the channel during the commercials. Although honestly, if you're that afraid of the people changing the channel, like oh no, if we have a commercial break and we don't keep them hanging on the edge, they might leave. Are you really writing that good of a show? Shouldn't you be able to keep them even if it's not just something that's like showing up in the last 5 seconds before commercial break? Shouldn't you be telling like a story that keeps them interested long enough to finish off 27 minutes of an episode? Really?
I think you're right, although you're assuming that the final goal is quality of art, and in the case of a lot of, yes, people who make television do care about quality.
I understand with Hasbro in the 80s it was really about selling the toy product.
Yeah, and I think it sort of remains, basically, like, the bottom line that everyone talks about is money. Like, it's always, when you produce a massive TV show or something like that, ultimately it does come down to that.
Whether or not it's profitable.
And the artistic merit, that can be something that
but can you make an argument for that if it's well made enough, everyone's going to want it. If it's the new hotness, if it's like Family Guy back as soon as like the season after it came back on the air, everyone was wanting to see Family Guy. It's back on the air, finally, yay! The people win over Fox. We get to watch the series we loved all over again. Everyone wanted that. Every channel wanted to have it. And honestly, you'd have a hard time flipping through about 5 channels in the basic cable package without one of them playing it in the evening. Or Futurama or The Simpsons back in the day. It was all the same thing. As long as you can provide the new hotness that people want, that they really want, you think you can sell it in syndication to a lot of places. Yeah. There's still some series you can't get on cheap syndication, even though they're really old. The I Love Lucy stuff doesn't sell for cheap. Have you ever seen an I Love Lucy episode?
I used to watch it all the time when I was a kid. I don't know how that got on, but
it's the thing. It's one of the series that's still in high demand.
Okay.
It's still popular decades after it's done.
I always thought that the reason I Love Lucy and certain shows, the reason why they stuck around to our era was because it was fairly easy to get the syndication.
That works for stuff like the Christmas specials.
Okay.
Syndication tends to, because they're competing against the new product, the new TV series, the 2.5 Men, the whatever reality TV show is big this year. It has to compete against that. So to be able to have that staying power to get like Bob Newhart on at 6 in the afternoon, 6 in the evening, as opposed to whatever else is going on big. There's not a lot of big new programs that aren't reality TV. I've noticed that for this last couple seasons. But to compete with that, it has to be a good draw. It can't just be because it's cheap. If it's cheap to put on there and no one's watching it, you're technically not doing your station any favors.
Well, I mean that's debatable too, because you can, because budgets can get so big that it doesn't matter. Like with the biggest shows on TV, the big budget
the
ones.
Super Bowls and all that sort of thing, where it costs like $1 million for a 15-second spot.
Yeah.
And it's gone even higher in the recent times.
Although the Super Bowl is funny because football in itself, it's not that big of a budget, production. It's just, guys running around.
It's reality TV, effectively. Although, admittedly, you have to pay almost all the decent name people $1 million or more a year. But that's not actually the people that are, filming the whole thing.
Well, that's the weird thing about football is there's nothing inherent in it that's like, expensive or, there's,
But if you could do that with other types of reality TV, is you just have like one rich guy sponsor a dozen wacky people, and they bring them into a house versus like another rich guy with his dozen wacky people, and see which one like out wackies.
So it's like Donald Trump versus who else does a reality?
Let's go Richard Branson. Richard Branson seems like the kind of guy who would hire a dozen weird people just for like a faux sports team. He seems like the kind of guy, well, at least for a season or two.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of those reality shows had like House versus House something on it, but I don't watch enough reality TV.
And then they just do it in like a public space, and you got to get proper people, to tape the whole thing, and whoever wins, and that gets broadcast out to the world.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it's about that ratio between what you spend and the viewership that you ultimately end up with. Because if you're not spending too much, you don't need to have that many viewers.
But if you don't have that many viewers, you can't get the people paying for the TV spots to pay much money for you either. Because they're saying, look at the numbers. You are not getting a lot of people compared to the opposing channels at the same time. We're doing much better off per unit dollar spending it, even though it's more dollars, over on the other network station.
Well,
because they've got like 3 times the people watching.
There are people.
So you can get into the whole negative feedback cycle, diminishing returns.
Yeah, there are people in the television business who think that way. But I'm saying that there is a way to do, and it helps if you're on the web or something like that, because then you're kind of more in control.
Very much so with the more modern media. That's just because, let's face it, speaking about TV in this day and age is kind of an old medium. It's having hard times these days.
Yeah, and of course with the web, you don't have to compete time slot for time slot, because
all you have to do is compete for their attention sometime.
Hopefully
soon.
Some point.
That said, although technically on the whole web media thing, you're not working against just the people in the time slot. You're technically working against everything else on the internet that's not on a limited time frame. So those like live, podcast shows or whatever that some people do, like occasionally NASA broadcasts their live stuff. That's got very limited time. Other than that, it's everything simultaneously. So you two technically have a lot more competitors.
I just realized, we're talking about podcasting, and we're doing a podcast.
Well, that's why we try and make sure we're entertaining, or at least educational.
I hope this has been worthwhile for our listeners to listen to, about the stuff about the entertainment industry that we're not actually in, but we sort of kind of look up to, I guess, in a way. I don't know. Or look down on.
I look up to or down on a few of them as independently. I mean, I'm not big on Fox, but I do like a few of their shows.
Okay, yeah.
I'd be happier if they quit canceling everything good, because they have lost a number of really good programs since I started watching them back in the, I guess it would be the old Married with Children days, that they just let slide through their hands. They could have owned the big 3 back when it was huge. They could have, instead of being the 4th one, they could have just knocked all 3 of them down and said, no, we're the big one, and you guys are the others now. Because they had enough good shows to get the people in there.
They canceled their good shows.
And yet they keep all the reality TV and their news programs.
Yeah, because that stuff is cheap.
And very little is cheaper than Fox News, I'll say that.
Anyways, does that wrap up about what we've been doing for the week?
Yes, I do believe. But I still think it would be good for them to either have like a shortened chapter or something a little bit better. Maybe it's if you could write, if characters were really your forte for being an author, then even if it's been a couple of years lapse between books as you're writing the next one, you don't need that introductory chapter again. Or maybe it wouldn't be that bad to actually have a pure introductory chapter prefacing what's happened before, like as like a sometimes like a bard would narrate at the beginning of like, this is where we come into the epic saga now.
Yeah.
And that would be I would appreciate that, because that way, dude, if you just finished off the previous book, skip the prologue, straight on into chapter 1. Just something out there for aspiring authors who are working on what may be a multi-novel thing.
Multi-novel series, yeah. But the thing I would say is, like, as long as you can keep the reader entertained while you're giving certain, like, the information again, it's probably okay. Like, imagine if that information was given in a slightly different scene with, like, different characters learning it and having different reactions.
Yeah, bringing in, like, if they had focused it on, like, a new, like, third string, character, they're going to be killed off somewhere in the middle of the book, so I guess it really doesn't matter who they are. They're just a third string character to get you to love, and then they'll die. But if they have it brought in from their perspective, and they see this person, and you get to learn who the people are from the third person perspective, as opposed to seeing inside, the main characters' heads, you see them from what they look like on the outside. I think that'd be a great way to bring in a new character and make sure everyone gets caught up in what can be seen as a very realistic fashion.
Yeah, true. And you see this often done, like, by kind of fan fiction writers. Like, someone will write fan fiction from the point of view of the Empire. It's like, these rebels,
terrorists. But we have to call them rebels because we're really decent guys and we're not actually bad.
Yeah. So you kind of get this alternate perspective where things that you thought you read in the first book you thought were true, it maybe casts doubt on them. I mean, ultimately it could still be, you carry on with your narrative as you sort of intended, but if you throw a little doubt on that, I think that's handy, that's useful stuff.
I think, the multi-purpose perspective always benefits in the long term. But it's just something that caught my eye this week when I was reading. It's like, yeah, I know. End of paragraph, yeah, I know. End of paragraph, yeah, I know. Okay, now there's some other stuff happening now. Okay, information exchanges. Okay, yes, okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. So, it's just something that caught me, because it did slow me in. I didn't engage quite so quickly as if I had picked it up at chapter 2, maybe.
Yeah.
That said, I would have missed out some interesting plot points on chapter 1. Things have happened, man. Things have happened.
Okay.
So
yeah, he kind of mixed it in there.
No author's perfect, no style is perfect, especially not for everybody, but it's just something that caught me.
Okay.
So I figured, if this is going to catch me and stop me from quickly engaging in a book, I'm going to make it at least a partial topic for a podcast and get something out of it. Ha-ha.
There you go. Yeah. What else happened? Oh, well, there was, Prince George was born.
Yes.
That happened.
For all Canadians, especially in the western side of Canada, the awkwardly named Prince George.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's shares the name of the same person that coined the city of Prince George's actual name. But now Twitter is going to be really confusing if you're trying to read up on the baby or the city. Because the hashtag is the same.
I imagine the city will probably be lower down on the, the rankings of...
Or they'll do it just to spite them and make sure they mention Prince George as often as possible. It's a great place to visit.
Yeah. Well, there must be other places in the world named things like Prince William, Prince Harry. Actually, I doubt there's any Prince Harry in the world.
Well, so you're saying if you're ever going to start like a fictional town in a campaign setting, make it like
Prince
a Prince Harry.
Prince Harry, British Columbia.
Yeah. It's just south along the coast from Prince Rupert.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of princes. If his name had been...
Our capital city is Victoria. We apparently are a very, very big on British province.
Yeah,
we're British Columbia.
Yeah, it's half the province's name is British.
So yeah, it seems to be like a theme thing for our province. So there you go.
Yeah, the theme.
Yeah, if you go just up on Vancouver Island, you hit Prince Harry.
I like how the theme of our land is another land. basically.
Well, it's nice to have a naming theme. Although I suppose we do have a lot of Native American naming themes happening too.
Yeah, and we get more every once in a
Skookum
while.
Chaka Soyuz and all those.
Yeah, that is true.
But congratulations. I don't think the Royals are actually listening to the podcast, but if they are, thank you immensely.
Hey, I have high hopes that Prince George will be a gamer of the...
at least moderate caliber.
Yeah, sure, moderate caliber. And Harry said he's going to make sure that Prince George has fun, although I don't think Harry's talking about video games, but he might be.
Maybe he's just secretly mentioning he's going to throw a huge party in the city. I'm going to make sure Prince George has fun. And all of a sudden, bam, Royal Days in the city. Big festival. There you go. That's my prediction for the future.
He throws festival. I don't know if he's kind of the festival guy, the guy that just kind of shows up at other people's festivals.
Well, when he shows up, it becomes a party, man.
Yeah.
So, and if anyone from the public works area, of the city of Prince George is planning ideas, well, there you go, Royal Days. Even if it's only a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing, you can get some fake mechanical bowls. Get yourself some of those Nerf, foam noodles, and then you can try having two people joust with that. There you go. You're welcome. Admit it, you'd try it right now if you had the opportunity.
I might. I just had a thought too.
Right.
You have a kid,
yes,
who will be in the same grade as Prince George.
I believe so.
Yeah. So maybe they'll meet someday, and maybe your kid could be the queen.
Well, I don't think she'd ever become the queen because of how the whole lineage thing works, but there might be queen consort.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah, because, that's the thing is the queen's husband right now is prince, I think, not actual king.
Yeah, but...
I'd have to double check. It gets really obscure, and it really, there's not a lot of examples given at any point in time.
Yeah, it is. That is confusing.
A nice trip down to the Wikipedia for how the whole thing works. Because he's Prince Philip. He's not King Philip. He's Prince Consort to the Queen.
Queens don't work that way, though. The thing is...
I think it may have been amended that they do now.
Oh, they do now?
Because they made the amendment work so that it doesn't matter if it was a prince or a princess, they'd be third in line for the throne, and that would never decrease. If it was a girl and they have another kid and it's a boy, the old rules were that the boy takes precedent. She cannot be, come the head of state until he's gone and there's no one else after him.
Yeah, so they changed it.
They've changed it. It's now gender neutral as opposed to, let's face it, very gender specific.
Okay, so but I think it might be the case that anyone you can't be king unless you're in the actual line, an actual descendant of
a blood descendant.
The previous king or queen or whatever.
That's why he's Prince Philip, not King
Philip.
Philip.
That's why he's prince. But in the case of queen, I think all you have to do to be queen, I think, is just be married to the king. But maybe that could be wrong. I don't, and they could have changed with the new rules. I don't know. But I guess that's probably, there must be an article on that. You people out there are probably already reading it.
Dude, I all tabbed and I'm Googling it now. I've got the answer for you guys. I don't know what you're talking about. It's all right here on Wikipedia.
But basically, the question would be, will Kate Middleton be the queen?
I think she'll always, at the best, be, she's Duchess now, right?
She's, Duchess.
I think at the best she'll ever become is princess. And I don't think she'll actually rise above Duchess. She'll be a Duchess consort to the king.
I feel like they will, she would be queen. Although, the other question, though, is would Camilla become queen?
Oh my goodness, that's an interesting kettle of fish as to whether or not even her husband can become king because of a divorce. Yeah. There's some interesting and obscure stuff like half laws and precedents that state that maybe he can't.
And well, I guess we were going to talk about this succession issue in your fictional settings. So, I mean, just even our own modern system.
We're living in the system and we can't understand it technically. So, if you're writing about it, in a pseudo-medieval thing, don't feel like the peasants have to know how everything goes.
Yeah.
They just get told this is how it is now, and they accept it. And that's why you used to be able to have such bloody coup, and now, okay, this person's dead, this person's now king. Royal? Sure, guess they are. They must be. They're king. And that's what they and all their guards with very pointy sticks say. Fair enough. My king.
Yeah, and I'm still reading through Game of Thrones, so of course there's lots of stuff like that in Game of Thrones. And this whole idea of the fact that you think it's time immemorial that monarchy would be hereditary, that
it's been that way forever.
You'd think that, but
unbroken.
Actually, that idea was brought in later. It basically, I don't know what year exactly, but like 1400s or something like that. And yes, it was the case that often the descendants of the king's son would become the next king, but it wasn't guaranteed because it was just whoever's best for the job or whoever can seize power or whatever.
So it used to be more of a meritocracy then.
Well, yeah, but then, of course, what happened with the meritocracy is that it was very bloody every time there was succession because they were all fighting over who would be had the most merit.
And it wasn't. You think that a place that had jousts in part of its history would work with jousts, but no, it was always a very bloody ordeal where a lot of innocent soldiers wound up, fighting over who else got to be king. No matter how good they fight on the battlefield, none of them suddenly gets kinged. It's not game of checkers there.
Yeah.
Which is sad, really. No meritocracy there. Not that you want the best fighter to actually lead a nation, unless it's a very violent nation. Yeah,
well, isn't that sort of the idea behind Conan the Barbarian? Or is he also I think he's also tactically minded too, but he's very smart.
Yeah, he uses the tactical mindedness to avoid the pitfalls of the aristocracy. Not that he actually likes it. He prefers being out and about, being more barbarian.
But that's interesting too, because it's the aristocracy can get so tied up in its own affairs, and this guy can't be king because he's got this thing and he did that, and this other guy can't be king either because then this guy would be jealous, and then so if you bring in the outsider, the barbarian, it's he doesn't have any of those issues or problems, So then they're oh, okay, well...
Mind you, it's not like other systems work that good. I mean, we can look at Egypt right now. They had democratically elected president, still had to have a coup, apparently. Military going on and all that. It's never a guarantee for an easy transition of power.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so, the thing about automatic heredity was that they added that because they're this should solve our problem. This should make... that way there won't be any question of who has the merit. It's just that guy's the king, apparently.
It did lead to some rather nasty inbreeding at some points in their family tree, though.
Yeah, that happened.
Although, to be fair, that happened with the pharaohs as well.
Yeah. And it's weird, too, because you'd think, sort of the way it's supposed to work with kings and queens and stuff, it's no, they don't have to be royal. They can be at least aristocratic because that's what you want.
Well, for a while there, it became they had to be. The reason why they were the ones chosen to lead was because it was chosen by God. Their blood was royal. They were just simply better than you, which was just a horrible notion, really.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, one of those major contributing factors. That, and apparently there's this interesting history in Europe of people just not getting out and meeting enough other people, so you have to marry your cousin because you really don't know anyone else.
Yeah, sort of the small town dilemma.
the really sad lifestyle, I suppose. I mean, dude, if you're the king or queen of a nation, or going to be, doesn't it behoove you to go out and see some of these places, go meet some people,
Yeah. Well,
party with a burgomeister, man?
I think that's what William and Harry were doing, and Harry's obviously still... I don't know if Harry has a girlfriend or whatever, but, basically those guys went out to all different places and met and partied.
And they joined up with the military, too. I think that was a very nice tradition the family started up of the royals spend at least some time in the military.
Yeah, it can be a little bit awkward when the press is talking about them because...
They can't mention exactly where because that might reveal locations and tactical plots.
Yeah.
But at least it means they're learning an act of something, and then you can't call them completely useless because
Yeah.
We'll say demonic, infestation happens, and hey, the apocalypse has begun. Dude, at least your king can be trusted to swing a sword around and know what they're doing on a battlefield situation. They at least have some sort of, physical combat training, and that's kind of nice.
I love how your criteria is how would they do in the zombie apocalypse. That's how you would choose it.
Well, I see the zombie apocalypse as being about realistic as happening as all society crumbling, where you have to go back to the barter system, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon either. So I lump them all together.
Yeah, and yet you still consider that an important characteristic of a royal.
Well, it just means that they know how to get something done on a tactical level. They're not what people constantly refer to them as is just pedantic. We don't do anything. We're useless drains on all of the nation.
We don't mean that, Prince George. We think you're a great guy.
No, and they've got a decent amount of property too. They're making millions off of every year.
Yeah, true. Well, I guess what I would say about things like them spending time in the military and doing other acts and stuff, I would say it sort of gives them empathy, so that they can relate to people who they have authority over. Although it's hard to say how much authority they really have, but they're more they're not really.
If you get on their short list, though, it's still not very good.
Yeah, well,
they have at least enough influential pull that it's whoa, I'd like to hire you, but I remember in the newspaper about how the prince actually cussed you out, so you're a bit more of a hot potato than I'm willing to handle. Sorry.
Some people might say that. There are probably enough people that would be okay with that, though. The other way, the other side. Yeah. But
I just like it the fact that this the military training means that they're not fitting in with the horrible stereotype of the useless nobility. They at least have a skill, even if they don't really wind up practicing it much after a few years' time of active military service.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. They have a skill. Yeah.
That's all I ask out of the rich people that wind up populating the tabloid papers. It's technically more than Kim Kardashian has going for her, I'll say that.
No, she's skilled at being famous.
She's skilled at doing things that we cannot mention on a decent podcast, and we advise the people out there not to Google up.
Google at your own risk, I guess.
She does a couple things very well, apparently, but nothing I'm willing to state on open record.
Oh.
Yeah. Suffice to say, she's in the same sort of area as Paris Hilton and Pam and Tommy Lee. They have videos.
They have.
Sorry, I have to say this because Josh was looking confused for a second. They all have very risque videos. There we go. It's out now.
Okay.
That's how Kim Kardashian really got famous.
Yeah. I mean, she did a thing.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
That's what they're famous for. And see, now, technically that's a skill, but I'd rather they know how to pilot a helicopter.
I don't want
Even
Kim
if I don't
Kardashian flying my helicopter.
I'd actually give Paris Hilton the benefit of the doubt for flying a helicopter if she had a proper license.
Yeah.
And blew the breathalyzer properly. If she did those, I'd be willing to hop in a helicopter with her if I needed to go in a helicopter somewhere. This is a very out there hypothetical situation.
I can't even imagine either of those girls being able to complete a helicopter training course. I mean, I barely imagine myself able to complete a helicopter flying course. And of course, it costs money, so that would be,
That's your big limiting factors, whether or not you could, pay tuition.
Yeah.
No, I'd be willing to give Paris Hilton benefit of the doubt. She was good enough to become... Okay, I'll give you this. She's a dang adequate singer. Like, on the professional tier, she's not going to be the highest up there, but she can sing proficiently. So that takes a little time and practice. And I've seen some of her acting. Not as bad as everyone says. Not great, but not bad. That takes a little time, too. So I'm willing to say that if she really wants something, she does have enough wherewithal to buckle down and accomplish adequate degrees of it. I haven't seen anything like that for Kardashians.
I suppose if she wanted it is the key, because
honestly, who wouldn't want to have helicopter pilot's license? You would have to lead either an incredible life where that's just not good enough for you, or so dull a life that you say no, I don't. That would interrupt my very, very wonderful day of just staring at the grass.
I guess I would like it if it was like if the world was like the Matrix, where they could just download the program into your brain, and now you know.
They're working on stuff like that. They're doing some stuff with mice on that sort of virtual memory. It's very, very crude at this stage, so you and I are not likely to ever have it.
That's too bad.
But grandkids might.
So yeah, I would take that for, I might even pay for it if I had the money.
That's the thing, is you're going to have to get the implants properly for the brain, wireware download.
Yeah. So you'd go for that for sure then, if you.
I would wait. I still wear glasses. I'm still not 100% convinced on the eye surgery, the laser eye surgery to complete that properly.
Well, I have heard horror stories, but anyway.
I'm just not happy with their current batch of results. I'm more of a perfectionist. I wait until it becomes really good. I still don't have a lot for wireless internet.
Yeah.
Because I am still not completely happy with its quality over the wired connection all the time.
Yeah. But then the other question that comes to mind, though, is if the world was like the Matrix and you could download, learn how to...
If it was already pre-installed, if I could trust that, if the stuff was already in my brain. Because right now, my main concern is they would be putting wires in my brain.
Okay, well,
so
for the
if
sake
that,
of the scenario...
Under the assumption, they've got that down to pat, man. That's like, an overnight thing, man. You just shave the back of your head, you go into the hospital, you're out by the end of the day. Yeah,
if it was... fly helicopters.
Yeah.
But...
I don't know, they give you a nice little, data stick that you stick in the back and all of a sudden it uploads or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they had something like that, I'd do that, yeah.
But let's throw a stipulation on this, though, and that, in your lifetime, for some reason, there's a new government authority that says, no, everybody can learn one biggish skill, like helicopter pilot, and you can only, that's the only one you can download into your brain, and all the other skills you either have to learn manually or not learn at all and not do. Is helicopter pilot really the one you would choose?
It's not a bad one as things go.
Would you choose maybe learning a musical instrument? That's one way to go?
No, I would prefer something that makes money.
Speaking different languages, or multiple languages, probably.
Okay, I will admit this. I was going to mention that helicopter pilot wouldn't be on the top of my list, as if I could change out what I could learn, I'd probably spend a day just tossing a new language in there and doing stuff like screaming in German, switching out, and then it's going into French, switching out, and then going into Tagalog and conversing with my wife's half of the family and just blowing their minds, thinking I knew it all along.
Yeah, we'll say in this future regime, I don't know,
of highly specialized people. You can't be like a Renaissance man, all things to everyone.
Right, but you get 10 or 12 languages in a package, and that can be that's what you're limited to. Or you can be a helicopter pilot, or you can be what else is there? A nuclear technician, or you can
nuclear technician. I don't know. It's pretty good. Don't get me wrong, but it seems like there aren't enough nuclear facilities for me to get a decent job. Now, maybe biochemistry techniques. I think I could make myself both a decent living and an enjoyable living doing that.
It's interesting because you already have a biology undergraduate degree.
But having the biochemistry thing really opens up some interesting additional fields for me, for QA, QC techniques.
Yeah.
That I think would be nice. And I always have a passion for getting just those rate-specific numbers and determining the ratios and bell curves and all that. I dig it. So I could enjoy a life doing that. Even if it makes only moderate amounts of money.
In the world where we've advanced far enough that where we can download things into our brain, we probably also have quite a bit more knowledge in the field of biology and microbiology and everything.
Yeah, there's the thing I learned for skill, is putting the stuff in the brain for everyone else, because that would be like a guaranteed job.
There, wishing for infinite wishes.
There. Now all I need is 4 other people to do that, and then we could all tinker on our own brains as we keep adding the stuff and get ourselves into this wonderful positive feedback cycle.
There, okay. Well, you broke my scenario. Thank
you. Once again, my gamer sense slowly comes to the rescue. find the way to abuse this system.
Very good.
Although, I must admit, there are some interesting potentials for that. I would enjoy.
Okay.
But yes, now that I have the positive feedback loop in there, I gotta go for that.
Yeah.
My other option would be learning about finance, trading, and economics, and then just being a day trader, a successful day trader, and hey, okay, now I don't have to go elsewhere. I make these trades. I've been studying up on this here. I'm looking at that. Okay, the trend say this is going to go, and there we go. I made enough money for the rest of the month. Minecraft time. So that was my other way to bust the system.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do prefer my infinite feedback.
Yeah. All right. So, done with
although
that.
Kung Fu would be the fun thing too, because they did do that in the Matrix.
Yeah.
And it's good to do something physical. That way you got yourself a nice physical hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Of course, it's not like you could get a job being a trainer, because anybody who wanted it would have gotten it through their systematic upgrades.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to make a stipulation on job availability, and it's like in this future world, because you've mentioned this problem twice now, in that if anybody can get any skill, then
you're not going to make a living teaching it to others. It's got to be a very practical use skill.
Yeah, well, then the issue is not having the skill. The issue is being able to find a place in society where you can
practice your wares. Yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking I might just have to wave my hand on this and say, in this future world, any job is available, just because other people, for some reason, don't, demand every single job. So any job that you can think of, you would be able to find work in, like doing. Although I guess professional Minecraft we have professional game players now in our world.
Yeah, but those League of Legends guys get really abusive. They could probably stand a psychiatrist coming in and analyzing them. But here, I will mention two things. One, what we've talked about, they have in Shadowrun. Active softs, skill softs, lingua softs, knowledge softs. Sure. Yeah. It's all there. And hopefully that's a little bit more to entice you, Josh, to maybe play a game. I'll see what I can do for designing up a stock character for you who can do just that. Become anyone, do anything through a bunch of skills he pops into the back of his head.
Okay. Yeah, that does sound kind of cool.
It's an interesting premise for a character. I am Omnibody. I'm not just anybody. I am anybody. All people. I am Omnibody.
Omnibody. I thought it was like Omni, B-U-D-D-Y, Omnibody, like everybody's buddy.
Well, if you put in the proper, etiquette software, you would become almost anybody's buddy.
Anybody's buddy.
Yeah.
Or nobody's buddy. The buddy of buddies.
Well, you'd be everybody's buddy, man. It's like, I'm everybody's friend, but not him. Nobody likes to be his friend.
Well, you can't be the big bad evil guy's buddy. Or could you?
Actually, if you roll decent enough on your etiquette stuff, you could at least become less adversarial and more just rival, sort of thing. If you do well enough and you role play it good enough, you can avoid it being the worst enemy and then just more of like a professional competitor.
Yeah, or like, Dr. Xavier.
And Magneto?
And Magneto.
Yes, sometimes enemies, sometimes just rivals.
Yeah.
Professional colleagues with differing opinions. So if you do well enough and your skill softs or your etiquette soft is high enough, even if that other person happens to be a dragon, because it's Shadowrun, that happens.
Sweet. You could have a dragon pal who's also the bad guy.
The dragon pal who's also the bad guy and the head of a mega corporation. He will send off people to try and kill you, but he's not going to hire the most competent assassins.
See, here's what I don't get about Shadowrun. Is it all seems to happen, it's centered around Seattle and stuff.
Well, Seattle is the main location, but there's all the rest of the world. Like, they do have a dragon in control of the Seder Krop mega corporation, but he's actually over in what is currently Germany. Germany kind of fractures into little bits and pieces.
Oh, like the Holy Roman Empire and the...
Kinda, yeah. Apparently, as soon as the underclass starts being able to throw around fireballs, you don't really have a good grip on the population like you used to.
I always kind of thought of Germans, at least our Germans in our day, as being fairly what's the word, obedient or...
Yes, but in the 2020s, Goblinization Day occurs, where 1 out of every 10 people suddenly, violently, and painfully becomes either an orc or a troll, and suffers major social, mental, and psychological stigmas from this that cause huge rifts even in between families. So,
Okay.
It fractures old lines and creates new ones. It's very much like a jackhammer on concrete.
Okay.
It breaks things up.
Yeah, sure. I can see that.
That's why most of Western North America is owned by the First Nations people once again. Even though their population really doesn't allow for a lot of things to be happening. They still have Vancouver as a trading port, but there's not a lot more native people than what you'd expect to happen within, we'll say, about 4 generations.
Right. Okay.
So.
Weird it's funny, like...
Seattle is...
If your character could get out of Seattle, like, you think wouldn't they, like, do that?
Well, there's a lot of things going on in Seattle. Seattle is the only port on the western coast for the United Canadian American States, and to a lesser extent the Confederate American States.
Right.
If they want anything shipped through the west coast, it's got to go through Seattle.
So, like...
Everything else is owned by either elves or First Nations people, and, except for San Francisco, which is owned by the Japanese, but you don't want to deal with them. They get really nasty in the future. They pull out all the stops, and they are just, whoof, they are dangerous forces.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely, like, if you want to go stuff around the Ring of Fire, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the Ring of Fire, the Japanese mega corporations are some of the biggest in the world. Sure. It's all going around there, and it all focuses through, and Seattle effectively becomes a microcosm for what is both North America and the Ring of Fire, Europe, Australia, South America, North America.
I guess it's similar to how we see kind of New York City right now, because the weather in New York...
somewhat like Hong Kong for the Asian area, because back before it converted back to Chinese rule, if you wanted to make a deal in Asia, Hong Kong was the place to go because it was effectively a neutral space for everybody. Even if it was technically owned by the British, they didn't have a lot. There was a long leash they kept it on, we'll say.
I guess so. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, you could. It's the same thing. Oh, by the way, Hong Kong still exists, and yes, it is the same sort of thing. So if you wanted to, you could have your place instead of happening in Seattle, you could do it in Hong Kong. You can do it in New York. It's technically owned by corporations. There was some rather big financial woes. The corporations effectively bought the city.
They bought New York.
You could have some fun over in Germany with their capital city. They lose it in the future to anarchists. It's an anarchist free state sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, Berlin?
Yes.
Anarchist free state of Berlin, or whatever.
Yeah. The free city of Berlin, anarchist haven.
So, what about Florida?
Florida is owned by the Confederate American States, except for the area at the southern tip, which is part of the Caribbean League. I don't know how they managed to take that. I haven't read up enough on it. I'm going to look into it. There's some very big questions I've had to dig deep into, like how did the First Nations people get a hold of Iceland? I think it was just an oversight on the author's parts. They thought there was First Nations people there before the Vikings. There wasn't.
Yeah. And
if there were, there aren't anymore. They've interbred with the native population, and they're all just one now. So how they managed to get a hold of Reykjavik and all that area, weird. So yeah, things to look up.
Although it was in the news, I don't know, a while ago that Iceland was back when they had the big financial crisis. Iceland was considering adopting the Canadian dollar, so they would have been that much closer to being Canadian. Which is an interesting thought, and you don't think of Canada as being expansionary that way, but wouldn't it be neat if some other countries just decided, hey, we'll join Canada?
Well, there was some talks about some Caribbean islands throughout the years about becoming a province of their own right.
Oh, yeah.
In the end, there's just too much for main differences as well as physical geography for separating it.
I guess, I mean, the fact, like, in the 50s, Newfoundland was a different country, and they're like, oh, we'll just join Canada. Like,
we basically were part of Canada, so we'll just join up officially.
Yeah. Well, but, I mean...
There's still a lot of contention among some of the older Newfoundlanders, though, so whether or not it was the right idea.
Yeah, that's still a thing. But if, like, imagine if Greenland and Iceland both decided, yeah, we're going to be part of Canada, you know, in 50 years from now, it would be like, oh, whatever.
Well,
yes,
yeah, of course they are.
Of course they are.
Why would they be
part of
any
the
other
big
way?
landmass. Like, you know, all those islands in the north, and plus that big island.
Yeah.
Greenland.
Although it might not be so big 50 years in the future, it's melting pretty fast.
Well, that will make the sea level will rise, the ice will go away, so it'll be more of the island you'll be able to walk around on, but it probably still won't be that nice. I mean, it'll be nice and like.
It will be
natural.
tillable as farmland because they used to be able to do that back in the 1500s, and they're reverting back to that apparently now.
Yeah.
Will be great farmland, not like like you can have in some areas down out of the Dust Bowl of America, sort of good farmland, but enough to make a living off of, or at least enough to sell to the neighbors to make sure everyone gets fresh produce. Turnips galore! Hooray!
That would be interesting if there was, I wonder if, do they have anything, I know people live in Greenland now, they have communities, but I guess they're mostly they're
part of Denmark.
Like, they hunt and stuff. Like
it's subsistence living, it's not as agrarian as it used to be.
Yeah, and I suppose they get some funding from Denmark too, that'd be the other, just like in Canada in the north, we get funding if we live far enough north. You get an allowance. Is it Northern Living Allowance? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Sorry, it's such a horrible place to live. Thank you for living there. Does this help out at all? Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't help you buy any fresh produce at all. But the permafrost is going further north as the climate warms up. So they're getting closer to being able to get towards decent croplands.
Okay.
So hooray! Maybe they can get decent priced food sometime in the near future.
I suppose. I mean, it's also nice to have untouched wilderness. So there's that.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of untouched wilderness up there. There's not a lot of people. You can have the farmland out and about.
Do a few farms and not ruin. Okay, yeah, all right. I'm in. I'm moving there next year.
You're buying the farm?
Moving to Northwest Territories.
Well, wait till it thaws up good and proper first and see how everything settles down. You don't want to buy property and find out it becomes a lake. You had like one of those blocks of ice sitting underneath there for 10,000 years.
Yeah. Congratulations,
you bought water that melted. The end.
Well, you still own the patch of land underneath the lake, right?
Yeah, but then you got the benthic lake layers, and that's never doing too good. And it wouldn't even be a healthy benthic lake layer. It would just be crud. It wouldn't be a good. You couldn't even get a proper fish farm on there, unless you want to put a giant greenhouse over top of the whole thing. In which case, congratulations, you got a really cool thing going on now.
There we go.
Yeah. So, I may have to note that down as a nice idea for something going on in the north. Just an Arctic fish farm.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they have greenhouses there, if nothing else than just the university's experimenting kind of.
They have to work a little differently because of the amount of snow that accumulates on. They got to do the high-end roof stuff. So it's not just a standard. I can order it from a catalog greenhouse that we can do here. So they're working on it. Solar technology too, of course.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work when you're north of the Arctic Circle, but you do what you can with what you got.
Yeah.
You can get sun for 24 hours a day, and you just need better battery technology then.
Well, I like the thought of imagining surviving in northern Canada because, for one thing, it's sort of a test case for living on another planet like Mars or something like that.
And let's face it, it's a lot easier to live in a slightly colder climate than it would be to try and, say, set up a house in Death Valley. Because it's like, oh yeah, it's like learning how we're going to live on Mercury one day in the future. It's like, yeah, but you got to live there. And it's like, ugh, how can you even move? At least in the cold climates, when you get cold, you move a lot and then you warm up. It's like, ooh, yeah, you can't unmove in Death Valley and cool down. There's no reverse movements for that.
I think, well, you'd have to figure out some way to get. I mean, there's air conditioning, obviously.
Yeah, but then you gotta buy, create the hydro system for the whole thing.
Yeah, you need to get your power from. Well, can you not have solar powered air conditioning?
You can, but it
seems
it
like
sets up for a whole little thing that you're working on, man.
Yeah.
You'd be better off just digging a deep hole than just making a small cave for yourself out of the light and hope that the cool earth underneath will cool you down.
Oh yeah, I mean there must be technological ways to build a self-ventilating sort of space even in the hottest.
It's effectively a missile silo. Is what you're looking at. Just build a missile silo, but don't put a missile in there, and make the top out in a greenhouse, and then just air condition the bottom.
There we go. All right, that's our other place.
Also, a nice product for Minecraft.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely good for Minecraft.
If you're thinking about something a little different, it's a way to go.
Yeah, and the other thing is we talk about how we're running out of space on Earth and that's why we have to move to Mars. Well, no, I mean there's a lot of space here in Canada.
But we don't want to disturb a lot of the space because of the pristine beauty and wilderness.
Yeah, I think we want to be careful about that, and sort of the First Nations have taken it upon themselves in a lot of cases to sort of speak up for the land and sort of and I
because there's very few other people willing to devote the time and energy to doing so.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing though too, because I mean it's not just about keeping it pristine and untouched, but it's just the fact that.
Well, I think we can do some light use of the whole thing. Just don't have everybody marching on the same trail every year, every day, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Tragedy of the commons and all that,
Oh, yeah, exactly. Tragedy. It's
the more you use it, the less beautiful it becomes.
And you want to use it in such a way that you can continue to use it in future generations.
It's effectively the indie hipster version of ecology.
Right.
The more other people know about it, the less value it has.
Yeah. So yeah.
Technically, the best thing is the part of the wilderness no one has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rock band that no one has ever heard play.
Yeah. So I don't quite buy into that entirely because
now I've just oppressed myself for proper ecologies. Now I can't remove them from being just a bunch of hipsters.
Yeah, but no, I mean the thing to remember is that human beings are also an animal and also need a habitat, and they can get along with their environment. It's possible to create an environment that includes both humans and all the animals in the.
Except we have to kill all the other large animals to make sure there's nothing that can rival us for dominance.
I suppose
that does include things like deer as well as most predators.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm okay with killing some of them. I don't want to drive animals extinct, but.
Well, at least regionally extinct if you're going to do it correct or right or make sure there's going to be minimum problems.
I suppose, yeah, you can't have animals just all
because
over
they
a
urbanize.
city.
If you want to read up on that, look at the Banff elk situation. For a while, it was Banff was in the middle of a park. You can't shoot the elk. They're in a park.
Mm-hmm.
And then the elk apparently realized, dude, they can't shoot us. And then this is a sad fact of nature in that
I love the elk.
Being a jerk is not refined solely to humanity.
Oh, I believe that.
It's a wonderful state of being for almost any potential creature, particularly within the mammals.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you realize you can be a jerk and get away with it, you become a jerk and try and get away with it. Same with those thieving monkeys they have in India. They'll break into people's houses, raid their fridges, and then leave.
I don't know if their intent is to be a jerk. It's just that it's cheap food.
No one's intent is to be a jerk. No one goes out and says, "Okay, I got a half dozen things on my jerk list to do today, and if I don't get them done, I'm just not big enough a jerk." No, you just are a jerk, whether or not you're trying to be.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you can have elk be jerks and pushing people around and driving them into traffic because you want to walk on the street. You can be a jerk by tailgating the person in front of you. You can be a jerk by stealing people's foods when they're out of the house.
Yeah, how dare those elk walk around where they've walked around for thousands of years, and somebody put a road there, and now they...
To be fair, no elk has been around for thousands of years. The city has been around much longer than any living elk. They should know by now.
The elk should know. Because we've been sending out little elk messages, elk pamphlets.
The fact that there's a bunch of scary creatures walking around there, most of which tend to hurt them on sight, should be fairly, Pavlovian response to keep away from this sort of stuff. Mm. It is not Elkland.
Okay, yeah.
But no, once they realize they're not going to hurt us, it's like, screw you guys, I'm moving in. Next thing you know, you can't go to the parkland over there, like the nice little parks. They got them green spaces next to the roads, where people can sit down and relax. No,
yeah. Elk
everywhere. You try to go there, no, get out of here. This is elk space now. We're taking it back.
Oh, that's so funny because
they're trying to do exactly what we've done to them, except we live almost 80 years, so it's going to have them be there for 80 years before we're willing to give it up and say, no, they've been there as long as we've been alive.
The Great War. But in the previous centuries, it's funny because a herd of elk would be like basically a godsend. It'd be like, yes, it's a blessing from the gods because...
So many sausages this summer.
And then, in the modern era, it's like, elk? What the... I don't want...
Are you going to the interior of the province? Deer everywhere, urbanized deer. Actually, you get that here, too, I've noticed.
Yes, Victoria has its own...
healthy, urbanized deer.
Population, yeah.
To be fair, if we were just allowed to officially and properly haze them, I think we could avoid a lot of the problem, but the government of BC does not allow that.
Wait, haze?
Hazing. You get dogs, like a bunch of really loud barking dogs to effectively chase the deer away and scare them from the area so that they say, whoa, 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 look how short this grass is. This is barking dog land. We don't want to go here. Let's go back to the long grass area.
Okay.
It's effective. Minimal deaths involved. There's some stress from getting barked at by a bunch of crazy dogs.
But not human death, you're talking about.
Not unless things go very, very awry.
Okay. So deer deaths.
Well,
okay.
The thing is, most animals don't handle stress as well as we do. Humanity is very special in that regard. We really take stress like champs, man.
Good for us, I guess.
It's one of the reasons we're able to develop a society instead of just become like a bunch of lazy cat-type people. Say, I would stress and build these pyramids, but that's so hectic. I'm just going to lay on this brick for a while. No. That's how we're able to start society. That's how we're able to build societies, because we can handle stress and thrive off of it.
All right.
At least for a decent amount of periods, and then we relax a little bit and get back into it. That's why we have weekends. I think it's officially why we have weekends.
Evolution gave us weekends.
And how much stress we can handle is why we have the work week as long as it is.
Okay. Could be.
If it wasn't, we'd have a lot more crazy people just ranting about like stress breakdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can handle like a 9-day week where, you work 7 days and then have 2 days off, you can bet somebody in the Industrial Revolution would have pushed for that.
Yeah. Well, my brother does a 10 days on, 4 days off.
That's too many days off in a row for the employers to go for all industries throughout society. So I think that's the 5 and 2 works out for how much stress you need, for how much relaxation you require.
5 and 2 works, especially like in the city where it's like, business days, banking hours, things like that. But if you're in resource extraction industry, it's like work as hard as you can.
6 week stint, 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
But yes, we handle stress much better. So deer, when you're hazing them, or trying to move them, or doing anything with almost any animal that's not like domesticated, really hard. They take it rather nasty. And I don't know why. It seems like something that evolution would really benefit from. Like every species would really like to evolve this trait of being able to handle stress. Because let's face it, when you picture, the wild, red of tooth and claw, you do not see an idyllic paradise like Eden.
Mm-hmm.
You see a bunch of like saber-toothed tigers latching onto a mammoth and eating what they can before it sinks into the La Brea tar pits and everything dies. This is not your place for relaxation. And yet apparently they can't handle stress the same way we do. I don't know.
That is. I wonder why that is. Might be something to do with reaching an equilibrium in their environment, and basically stress is an upset to the equilibrium. So they get really good at existing in that one sort of their niche.
Most of the animal kingdom are niche players.
And then if you disrupt that niche, then because they've adapted so carefully to that niche, then that's basically causes stress. So I don't know. That's a thought.
Although to be fair, not everybody takes stress the same way. I mean, there are some people that can't use like a public bathroom. It's too stressful. I don't know how they evolved out of humanity. I do understand that using the bathroom is a very private issue, so I kind of get that, but still, I don't fully understand how they came about.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, what about like pigeons and stuff? They're kind of all around, and they.
Yeah, but you get yourself like one of those foghorn, like air horns, and play that, and you just keep honking them every time they land on a statue. They don't come back. It's
really?
just too stressful.
Does that work? Yeah, it really work?
Okay. There are some persistent problems along places like airports where they got to scare the birds away. But yeah, they do handle the stress pretty bad. They don't lay eggs so well. The chicks don't get fed so well. Some of them don't even hatch. Poor quality. All that stuff goes down the line. They just can't handle it, man.
So it might be to further theorize and expand on your thought that humans handle stress. It might be not necessarily the fact that they can handle stress, but the fact that they're adaptable to different niches. That a human can thrive in various different environments, meaning that transporting a human to a different location or disrupting the routine, the human is adaptable and therefore doesn't feel sort of...
We are the ultimate generalist apex mega predator.
The ultimate... Oh, yeah.
We're persistence predators. We're used to handling stress on a physiological level better because, unlike most creatures which run away for about 5 minutes and then the predator stops because, not worth it, we will wound a creature and then chase its bleeding body for 12 hours until it collapses from exhaustion, then collect the meats and everything off of it and go home.
That's true. But, Komodo dragons do a similar thing where they have a venomous...
Just absolutely foul mouth.
It's like bacteria that they have.
Just hideous bacterial loads on them, yeah.
So they bite the creature, and then I don't know if they follow it but basically the creature won't die right away. It'll walk away or whatever.
It's slow. But it ultimately will die. It's wicked and it's painful.
Yeah, and then the Komodo. I don't know how the dragon goes after it. Like, does it?
Kind of like Pepe Le Pew after the cat, I would imagine, where it just kind of skips up behind slowly and is there when it collapses.
Yeah.
And now you can't see his Komodo dragons. I think that's been cute because you see them skipping. Forget that horrible, they're rushing at you. It's a dragon. No, you see them skipping now.
I like the thought. Yeah. Do they? I've never seen... I'm going to have to watch some Komodo dragons on YouTube to find out how fast they move. Because I always picture lizards... Well, no, I mean...
It's not exactly the most graceful run, but they can hit some decent speeds, I'll say that.
Scary.
Enough to make you want to jump up a tree, because you really hope they can't climb.
They can't climb, can they?
I think they're too wide-bodied to make effectively. Yeah. They are big enough, though, if the tree isn't big enough to compensate. I think they can just effectively try and push it over or gnaw away until the timber collapse. They're vicious things, man. Komodo dragons are vicious and just look into their eyes, it's like, wow, you will make this hurt if you hunt me. It's not going to be an easy thing, no.
Okay, yeah.
Oof. On the other hand, most reptiles are like that, but they're too small to really present much of a threat.
Yeah, true.
You get big and you get the crocodiles, you look in their eyes, and it's like, oh, this is not going to be an easy death.
I wonder if it would be like that if dinosaurs existed still. If they'd be like kind of creepy, or you look in their eyes and it looks like they'd want to eat you.
Well, now that we know that most of them were in fact feathered, I think it'd be the same as looking into a giant parakeet or something. So yes, it would.
Yeah.
You ever look into a bird's eyes, you don't see a shred of compassion there.
Mm-hmm.
You look into their eyes and they look back saying, I will eat those eyes as soon as you are dead and within reach. And I won't even really need that first one to happen.
Okay.
Animal Kingdom, Red of Tooth and Claw. Nasty stuff. But I believe we've been talking for about 90 minutes now.
Yeah. So I want to remind our leaders, or our
leaders of humanity who happen to be our listeners.
That's right, Prince George. We hope you've enjoyed our podcast.
Even if all you understand right now is just general words. And if I knew you were listening, I would have shaken my car keys at you to make you jingle and laugh and be happy. Sorry, I didn't. It's too late now.
And we have email. Send us email at thesimulationist@gmail.com. Drop a comment on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel or anywhere else you find with a little box under it that you can type in. We love hearing from you.
Now, I will note that when you send us these emails or any messages like that, there's no jingling sound, but there's usually a nice bing or a beep or something that alerts us that a new message has come. And for us, that's just the same as jingling keys to a baby. It makes us so happy.
Oh, yes. True. Okay.
So, yes.
Last thoughts? I've been Josh Trelevin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby, and keep thinking out there, eh?
All right. Send us money.